It's adventure time, come on, grab your friends. We'll go to very distant lands. Jake the dog and Ben the human. The fun will never end. It's adventure time.
Hey! Adventure Time is my favorite show of all time. It's a little difficult to explain why. It just hit me at the right time. I was aging at the same rate as the character. It reflected my viewpoints and the highs and lows I went through in my personal development. Is there other media out there that also touched me on a deep level? Yeah, but Adventure Time feels like it came straight from my core. The vibe, the world, the characters, they now all feel like aspects of me. The stories and characters helped me navigate times in my life where I felt lost and confused. It also provided a great story of a boy and his dog in a fantastical world. It opened my mind, changed my taste. It shaped me. And judging by its longevity in our culture, it's touched many other people out there in the same way it touched me. It took me a long time to realize I was a real, true blue animation lover. Yet, Adventure Time was a show that kept me coming back again and again. It had an appeal unlike any other. The history of the show is not a mysterious and unknown thing. It's well documented and talked about quite a bit. It's known that the show itself was not an immediate success. It was made by a crew that was largely new to the whole thing. It failed to get made multiple times, but this piece of media knew it needed to be made. It knew there was a wide swath of people out there who were just as mathematic as it was, and the brain it came from belonged to Pendleton Ward. Penn's initial spawn location was Texas, and he had always had a fascination with animation. Seeing drawings move and come to life, it was like magic. Despite the dimensional difference, he was right there along with the characters, connecting and feeling with the animation.
First grade, my mom introduced me to flip books and do animation like that, and I learned how to draw bouncing balls, which is maybe the first thing that most people learn when they're studying animation, is how to make a ball bounce up and down. I feel lucky to have had direction from an early age about what I wanted to do.
Another large influence was surrealist media. Taking what is absurd and accepting it as serious was exactly what he wanted out of his own. That was exactly what he wanted out of his own future animation projects. Ward, almost entirely by himself, produced a 7-minute, standalone animated short film. I think you guys can guess what its name was. Adventure Time. There were some issues gaining in front of people's eyes. The initial pitch was not a surefire thing. He came in playing a ukulele and made all the storyboards himself, which, FYI, he did not really know how to do that properly. Executives bristled at it. They thought Penn didn't want to make a commercial product. What he pitched was more akin to an art house film. He finished the short in 2006 and began an 18-month option window for Nickelodeon on if they wanted it to become a true series. You see, they had an anthology show called Random Cartoons, where they premiered the short. The show functioned as a breeding ground for short animated content on Nick. Despite being completed in 2006, the actual episode that contained Adventure Time didn't air until late 2008. Penn and his friends were crafty though. They were able to skirt around Nick's rules and air the short on the Nicktoons network early in 2007. Due to airing on a different network, they were able to skirt the 18th month option window, and they were able to post it online to get as many eyes on it as possible. The short became quite well received and was nominated for an Annie Award and garnered close to 500,000 views across all early social medias. Nick passed on the show despite the unusual burgeoning fan base. I guess they weren't ready for that one yet. After the initial minor success, Federator picked up the option to shop the show elsewhere. Penn was already busy improving his skills on a mostly forgotten Cartoon Network show named Flapjack. Does anyone remember this show? In the eyes of the children watching this show, it was about charming romps between a pirate and a little boy. But through the eyes of an adult, the world of Flapjack is quite uncanny. Creating and following the trends of other animations at the time, Flapjack was full of nasty close-ups and insane plots. Flapjack's production crew was also a breeding ground for the future of children's animations. Gravity Falls' Alex Hirsch, Over the Garden Wall's Patrick McHale, Obvious One Pendleton Ward for Adventure Time, plenty of others. All creators got their start on this strange show. Penn, knowing there was a very real possibility of him leading his own show in the future, used the time on Flapjack to learn. He worked under Thurop Van Orman, who was Flapjack's creator, to refine his storytelling chops and improve his skills on storyboards. The experience primed Penn on many production specifics that he had no knowledge of before. They knew a pitch with Cartoon Network was coming up, so they needed to make the show the best it could be before sending it off. With himself and all of his friends leveled up, they went back to the show Bible to make it clearer and better. The show Bible. A show Bible is where the most important tenets of the story and characters are outlined and developed. We've been rambling for a bit about other stuff, but let's get talking about what the show is actually about. The world of Adventure Time is known as OO. It is a mixture of classic D&D fantasy and childlike whimsy. Making up a sort of patchwork design, the regions of OO are made up of very wildly different areas. An episode can be bright and colorful in the Candy Kingdom, while the next can be dark and dangerous in the Wastelands. Taking cues from classic medieval fantasy, the world is broken up into kingdoms, all with their own ruler and culture. At the center of not only the island of OO, but for us the story, is the grassland and treehouse, the home of our titular heroes Finn and Jake. Adventure Time is about these two close friends. Jake, a wise old dog with a big kind heart, and Finn, a silly kid who wants more than anything else to become a great hero. Wanting to emulate the heroes of old, Finn attempts to embody many of their best qualities. Possessing a strong backbone, Finn stands tall in the face of any adversity. Despite being a noodly boy, he never hesitates to throw caution in the wind in order to protect the ones he loves. Even without the knowledge of his origins, he knows deep in the moral fiber of his being that being a hero, protecting good from evil, is necessary. While he embodies all these noble qualities, he is still merely a 12-year-old boy. He's not immune to being tricked or indulging in carefree, joyous moments with his friends. Whenever Finn is not being a nut or a hero, he takes the time to sit on his butt and appreciate the sublimeness of nature. What good is protecting and maintaining all that is if he can't kick back and enjoy it as well? The other half of this adventuring duo is Jake the dog. Despite being of similar age in actual years to Finn, Jake is older in dog years. Thus, he fills the role of older brother or a cool uncle. The two inspire each other and boost the best qualities of the other. Jake is wise but playful, providing a nice contrast to Finn. If Finn is jumping around and being hyper, then, hey, Jake can indulge too. Should Finn falter and mess up, Jake is there to help his brother pick himself back up. Uh-oh, here she comes. Who else other than Princess Bubblegum? PB acts as sort of a plot starter. Being a princess and a super nerd enthusiast, she's able to send Finn and Jake on tasks and projects that can keep the two occupied. She can also be a much-needed source of adult-like rigidity that the adventuring pair can use to focus themselves. Contrasting PB's geekdom is Marceline, the vampire queen. Marcy is a wild, rebellious rocker. She acts as sort of a breeze in the wind, blowing into the plot on a whim and influencing events. She can embody the allure of being a daredevil and encourage Finn to be more of a mischievous prankster than a righteous hero. Marcy and PB are two opposing acts of the same coin. PB can become irate at Marcy's freedom and recklessness, while Marcy can poke and prod at PB's wealth and responsibility. At the end of the day, all four of them are friends. Friendly rivalries and contests emerge between them and are resolved with no one's feelings being hurt. If they're looking to challenge a real bad egg, then look no further than the Ice King. Armed with a magical crown and a frozen heart, the Ice King is the stereotypical mad king obsessed with evil doings. This dude has some serious issues. Possessing a horrible personality and cold hands has denied the Ice King from the finer things in life. Friendship, love, brotherhood, he's got none of it. Thus, it leads to the Ice King being a total donk. All this is born from a deep-seated feeling of insecurity and jealousy within his icy heart. He looks at Finn and Jake and he sees his own failings. When they come into conflict, the only way the two heroes know to get the guy to chill out is to kick his butt. But the Ice King is not incapable of being a homie and just hanging out. This shows a dichotomy in their world. No one creature is truly born to be straight evil. Well, there is one, but we'll get to him later. With all that outlined, they are ready to show it off to Cartoon Network once again. The studio itself was in a moment of change as well. A large wave of management shifts had just occurred, and the studio was interested in trying something new. It was the prime time to give this series a chance, and the indie comic booky tone was new and exciting. Despite this, the green light didn't come with this pitch. CN wanted to see some proof of competency from the Green Crew. Sending the boys back, they were tasked with completing an 11-minute storyboard that could be expanded into a series. Penn, Patrick McHale, and Adam Muto got to work creating the first storyboard for the show, the Enchiridion. They needed to make this count and prove that with this show, lightning could be caught not just twice, but over and over again. So, in trying to recreate everything the original short was, but also being different enough, they threw the whole kitchen sink at the episode. They crammed everything and anything that they could into this one 11-minute odyssey to show what this show is about. They came back in with the finished product, and against all odds, it worked. Cartoon Network greenlit the show, ordering 26 11-minute episodes with an option to order more later. A first season. CN knew that they had a unique voice with Penn at the center of the show. The real trick was to build up a production staff around him to allow for the support to make this a true ongoing series. They weren't quite off to the races yet, as they struggled with getting any of their future stories approved. The passion was there, but the machinery needed to get the process functioning wasn't set up yet. They needed more help. Coincidentally, around this time, both Chowder and Flapjack were ending, which allowed for them to rope Penn's old boss on Flapjack, Thoreau Van Orman, into the production. They were also able to grab 3 veterans from SpongeBob to help better outline what an Adventure Time story even was, so that people other than Pat and Penn could write Adventure Time stories. The series itself really was gaining traction at just the right time. The initial online response to the pilot was an excellent seedbed for Penn to find other artists that saw his vision. Combing the internet and finding like-minded artists was a goal of Penn's, and through this he was able to find really talented artists like Rebecca Sugar and Tom Herpinch. Penn himself really liked the concept of bringing on newer, less experienced people to help fill out the production staff. Those same individuals would go on to have incredible success in not only Adventure Time, but also future projects. Penn had this handle on who he thought could relate to his voice and build him on what he was trying to do. Talent begets talent. Adventure Time was shaping up to be a very unique show. It was less about maintaining a specific story structure and more so just following the certain vibe or feeling that the Adventure Time episode wanted to give. Yes, we already gave the show Bible a look, so we know the certain tenets that the characters fulfill, but the show was less concerned about that aspect of storytelling and more thought that the intrinsic sensibilities of a story was the most important aspect of it.
Well, usually it's already there. Like if it's in the storyboard, we try to preserve that and bring it to the final product, and that goes for every episode. So that's why he hires people that he has confidence in, and they do their version of it, and we just try to shepherd that through and preserve it to the end. So that's, that is basically most of my job, is just trying to keep it, however weird it is in those first thumbnails, all the way to the screen.
That intrinsic sensibility of what Adventure Time is what Penn was looking for in his crew. He thought it'd be best to be surrounded by people who understood him and his art. Due to the nature of this whole production, it was kind of difficult to foresee this working out. No one was sure if the show could even get off the ground. It took the perfect storm to get the show where it was even now. As said previously, there was a large swath of changes at Cartoon Network that placed Rob Scorcher in the role of Executive Vice President. To him, the show was not a certain success. But taking a cue from his previous work on shows like Courage, Powerpuff Girls, and Ed, Edd n Eddy, he saw another independent creator making an offbeat show, and he thought this could work. Maybe the qualities that people bristled at could be its strengths. Indie comic booky, didn't look completely polished. Call that new, fresh, and fun, just like him as the new role of Executive Vice President. As the whole production began to coalesce, it was time to show the bigwigs what they had. An art show and presentation was scheduled for the Adventure Time crew to reintroduce themselves and the show to the Cartoon Network management staff and team. When they stepped into that room, it was as though they were entering an entirely realized world. It was a show where actions had consequences. If a character dies, they're not coming back. But at the same time, it was a comedy with characters made out of candy. A rainbow horse, vampires, and a boy with his talking dog.
We don't have like one mission statement. I think it was to make a show that we would have enjoyed as kids. That was part of it, to try to tap into like a very genuine experience of the show and not do something super cynical or calculated. It was just what we thought was funny and what we hoped that viewers would think was funny.
When we're writing the show, we're just trying to entertain ourselves for the most part, and our sense of humor, we like to laugh. We try to dig deep. It's heartbreaking humanity. It makes us laugh, right? That's how we're free.
The battle was convincing them that this show could work, that it could still be funny and fun for kids, while also having this element to it that reaches to a deeper part of the human experience. They were not selling a show, they were inviting them to enter a brand new world. It was new, no one really knew exactly what it would be, and yet you could feel that there was more here than just a cartoon. Adventure Time premiered on April 5th, 2010 on Cartoon Network to a very expectant audience. This candy-coated vision of a post-apocalyptic world was suddenly being consumed by millions of peepers all over the world, and it proved to be an immediate rating success. Let the suits upstairs chalk it up to being a good bet on behalf of the network. But for audiences, it was a total breath of fresh air. It wasn't just the unique voice and comedy that hooked them, it was also the entirely original world that was filled with characters that felt meaningfully connected amongst one another. For the crew behind the show, while it was certainly a gratifying experience to have the show be seen and appreciated by the masses, it was also a massive responsibility now that the show was actually real and running.
Just seeing all the kids dressed up, with all the merchandise, I had no idea.
When you see stuff like you're talking about, like the building that people have painted, we're actually gonna go see it today, like that, and there's like college dorms that have like painted their whole college dorm like Adventure Time in the Land of Ooh, and like the theme park they're building or the bullet train and stuff like that. You just really see how massive and how big the fan base is and just how into it they are.
Basking in the magnitude of creating a pop culture phenomenon was pretty sweet, but it also came with seeing any dissenting opinion that could come with it as well. Internet input got the show here, but it also kept the crew humbled. Penn himself remembers seeing kids online talking about the show and hearing one of those online boogers saying the most simple terms possible. It sucks. All the effort put into the show only for some turd online to write "this sucks." It kept the crew grounded. They were not some overnight success. It took time and effort and would take a continued diligence to maintain the production. Well, we've heard one little dissenting opinion, but how about we take a look at the show itself and see what they were interested in the first place? Season 1. Well, the first episode that aired was Slumber Party Panic. The real first episode that was produced was the Enchiridion. This episode truly exemplifies all the elements we previously illustrated as inspirations for the show. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's get introduced to what's up. Starting straight at the center of a party in the Candy Kingdom, we see Finn and Jake getting down with the rest of the Candy citizens. A nice little showcase for how fluid they're willing to be with the character models in this show. It's not a big deal if their arms are a little bendy for the sake of a scene. Also, for those of you who were watching when this was airing, you may recognize this specific clip for being the end bumper on Cartoon Network. Little fun fact. The episode wastes no time getting Finn and Jake off on their adventure, tasked by Princess Bubblegum to go grab the Book of Legend, the Enchiridion. While the actual real-life Enchiridion was a book about ethics and virtue, Adventure Time co-opts this to be a mythical, fantasy-esque book that will guide and illuminate heroic values for Finn. Right off the bat, they establish this common inciting element. The princess gives the boys a task to complete. Why do Finn and Jake do it? Because they wish to be righteous heroes. All these elements are given in rapid fire, not wasting a single frame. This speed gives the show a certain energy to it, like you yourself are also a hyper 12-year-old on this adventure with your brother. The journey is almost structured like a D&D campaign as well. Finn and Jake come upon a dilemma or problem and frequently impose their own homespun solution to it. Finn sees the key guy, puts him in the keyhole. You can almost feel the DM who had to improv the scenario right in front of his friends. Then, coming across a group of boiling gnomes is the next challenge for our heroes. This one serves as a trick though. As soon as they save the gnomes, they immediately start blasting old ladies. Up until now, it's been mainly Finn driving the pair forward, but after getting tricked, Finn runs away. He is still 12 after all. But the gnomes made a big mistake. They messed with Jake's little bro. This serves as a great moment to show off the two main characters' dynamic. Finn is mainly just a kind-hearted kid, while Jake is his laid-back older brother. And you don't mess with Jake's brother. These little monsters get dunked back in the lava and Jake goes to console Finn. John DiMaggio's voice is excellent for this more worldly, chilled-out brother, coming in to calm the younger brother and reassure him he's on the right path.
I think my favorite things are the fact that they love each other so much. They're just really, they just have this love for each other, and they protect each other at all costs. And I think how loyal they are is really something, and how willing they are to listen to each other and explore the land of Ooo fearlessly, and make mistakes. There's that quote from Jake, sucking at something is the first step at, like being sort of okay at something.
John himself previously worked with younger cast members on Chowder, so I'm sure it was helpful to reuse that experience when interacting with his other younger cast member, Jeremy Shada, the voice of Finn. Being the same age as the character, 12, Jeremy landed the role of voicing Finn after his brother initially voiced him in the pilot. His boyish energy works wonderfully to embody Finn as a character. As we will see as the series goes on, both the character and the actor age, so will the voice in quite a natural way. Moving on with renewed confidence to do a run across a couple more trials, one to show off the quirky, unique action the show can have, and the other is another ethical dilemma. In both, Finn reaffirms his righteousness and passes all the trials. Now rewarded for his brave and tender actions, Finn receives the Enchiridion and joins the group for a victory meal. End of episode. As said previously, this first episode really shows off all the elements that the show wished to highlight. Fun, boyish adventures, brotherly bonds, testing the mettle of our heroes, and just general, albeit unique fantasy flavorings. Treating this first ep as a good base allows for other episodes in the rest of the season to explore aspects of the world and characters that grows and expands after the initial insight. Episodes like Trouble in Lumpy Space and Tree Trunks introduce secondary and tertiary characters to the world, while at the same time really upping the zany abstract elements in the plot. One episode introduces the paragon of heroism for the boys to follow. His hero introduces Lou Ferrigno as Billy, the fabled hero of legend, which provides a great seabed for later on when they expand upon these characters in the further plot lines. Prisoners of Love introduces the villainous Ice King while also displaying aspects of him as the sorry dud he is on the inside. They even go so far as to include episodes that explore our main characters in their struggles. Whether it's Finn facing his fear of the ocean in Ocean of Fear, or Jake's pride and identity crisis in The Witch's Garden, all these elements assist in rounding out the show itself, displaying that despite the initial insight, they're not a one-trick pony. This first season can really be exemplified as being sort of a sugar rush of fun. There is one particular episode that really captures what the show will be more known for in its future, and that episode is called Rainy Day Daydream. While the first season is very much of its time in the early 2000s where the height of internet memedom was Nyan Cat, this episode has traits that would come to define the later story structure that the show would follow. Rainy Day Daydream is a story less about the plot and more about just being present and allowing for the characters to be themselves and their lives. The first season was very essential to the look of the show. Acting as the essential bedrock, the designers of the appearance of the characters and world are as much responsible for the longevity of the series as the story writers are. Simplicity and iconography are the key words here. Being able for the young audience to make fan art or just to simply be identifiable is the name of the game here. Take our heroic duo, Finn and Jake are primarily made up of ovals. Finn's entire body is an oval. Cut off for his face to pop through his bare hat is an oval. Jake is one large oval.
Yeah, we don't usually track his weight. He'll change already, episode to episode. He can shapeshift and people draw him different anyways, so.
Designs like that are quite simple and flexible for artists like Matt Forsyth, Tom Herpinch, Phil Rada, Anthony Ristanio, and Natasha Allegri to be able to use and mold their own individual ways.
Jake's he's actually a really simple character to draw. He's kind of like a little spud, but he's easy to get wrong too. His face is really weird. There's some weird logic behind how we put it together. But he's usually a really fun character. We can draw him doing all sorts of crazy things.
Creating the world itself wasn't just add a unique random thing here. Adam Muto would always make sure to leave a sense of internal continuity as to what was happening on screen. If Finn has a sword on his back, it needed to be attached in some way, and the audience would have to know how it was so that they were not questioning it. They made attempts to make every character appear as though they had lived a life outside their brief appearance on the screen, adding tears, rips, clumps of hair, lumpy muscles, all details to assist in making a design feel earnestly experienced. Especially during the duration of the production of the first season, the head guys were asking and interested in what the designers were concocting in their own personal headcanons while designing for the show. The look of the show was still solidifying, so why not take a look at what the talent they all brought in could bring to the table? They were able to really iron out the rules for Penn's world through this process. Visual landmarks in the language of Wu were important in having the world be as realized as the characters that inhabit it. Rocks, clouds, waters, landscapes, all of which were handled in a very naturalistic and organic way. Getting everything to fit together and be on model with everything else was important in maintaining continuity for the audience. While future seasons would still change what the first season imagined the world to be, the flagship season was the one that defined the rules and told future creators how things are or are not done. Maintaining the balance, simplicity, and complexity of designs was essential to making the Land of Ooo feel like a real environment. The Land of Ooo, in broad strokes, is a world filled with wild, fantastical concepts, while also remaining uniquely grounded in its approach to the extraordinary. The most unique flavoring added to the Adventure Time world is the background of the post-apocalypse. Former Flapjack writer and storyboarder Dan Ghost Trip Bandit was brought on to be a freelance illustrator and was told to largely go wild. Setting the show in a Ghost Shrimp world was the MO. Ghost Shrimp designed major locations, including Finn and Jake's home, the Candy Kingdom, and the Ice Kingdom. The human world was largely gone and dead. Finn is our remaining lone human rep in the world, which has now been regrown from fantastical elements. A burgeoning kingdom made of candy, a frosty wizard's abode, a deserted wasteland filled with oozing mutated creatures, former subway tunnels leading to underground caverns and dungeons, dark forests inhabited by dubious creatures, and churning, active fiery pits are all locations in the world of Ooo. The world as we knew it, seemingly left encapsulated on this lone island left in the world. Speaking strictly story economically, this offers a nice microcosm for any seeming environmental situation the story will wish to have. Residing near the center of the island is the treehouse, Finn and Jake's domicile. Embodying the ultimate childhood fantasy, our heroes live in a treehouse. Implying a long history, their walls are adorned with endless trinkets and items from their adventures. Not only that, but they also imply a storied history of previous inhabitants in Invicted when they get kicked out of their home by Marceline. Their home maintains a cozy lived-in feeling that persists throughout the show and allows for the boys to live in a carefree life. Just a stone throw away from the treehouse to the Candy Kingdom, a vibrant, sickly sweet color palette bathes the homes and castle of the Candy citizens. The city itself ranges from dirt-esque medieval paths to more modern cobble streets with stores and businesses. Either style can be used depending on what type of story they wish to parody or where the aesthetic fits best for the story they're telling. The interior of the castle is largely big, empty spaces with side rooms that contain special experiments from the princess. This is the first season, so they keep it fairly light, not wanting PB to come across as a mad scientist. Not yet. Future seasons will illuminate this more. But the kingdom offers a deep setting that allows for a variety of stories to tell in almost any framework. The most sterile and barren landscape is the Ice King's Ice Kingdom. Sharp glaciers and large snowy fields are the home environment for the penguins and the Ice King. The largest mountain adorned with a frown is where the Ice King carves out his own frozen slice of peace. The inside of his home reflects his insecure disposition. It's barren, lonely, it's a single male living space. It offers a great backdrop for the good old rescue the princess plot, or even a deep dive into the Ice King's character as the later seasons would do. Speaking of, we have enough window dressing. After all that hype and explanation, how is the show itself received? Adventure Time was a ratings boon for Cartoon Network when it was in a questionable transitional period. In March 2013, it was reported that the show averaged roughly 2 to 3 million viewers an episode. The show premiered on April 5, 2010, and was watched by 2.5 million viewers. Top to bottom, it was a rating success. According to a press release by Cartoon Network, the episode's time slot saw triple-digit percentage increases from the previous year. Saying it's a success was an understatement. Every single element managed to combine together and create a season of TV that struck a chord with audiences all over the globe.
There's all kinds of stuff. People are nuts about the show. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's so much fun to be involved in something that people are like, ah! And especially because I fly around under the radar. People don't know my face. People don't know me. So when I tell them, when I do, they're just like, what? You know, like, oh my God, like my kids freak out. I watch the show with my kids, or, you know, just college students are like, hey man, it's awesome. You know, just, you know, whatever. It's just a great gig.
Season 1 for the crew, though, was largely looked at as some sort of a petri dish. Going forward into Season 2, the crew was afforded the benefit of hindsight and could pick and choose what elements they liked and didn't to continue forward for the future of the show. Season 2 can be seen as a great reflection on what the crew thinks works and what they think the audience would enjoy more of. Starting off the second season hot by making a new Marceline story, they expanded her backstory and placed in a larger world. Her previous 2 appearances just served to have her fill the rebellious older sister role, which she still serves in these Season 2 episodes, but in the season premiere she shows that there is more to her than just being a little stinky brat. Writing what they thought worked previously, many other episodes followed the sugar rush energy of the first season established, but now the writers are adding more quiet, introspective moments. Let's not go so far as to say they have true dramatic storylines yet. That starts coming later, but there is a noticeable nudge in the way stories are told. They are also able to establish a soft level of continuity. Finn, acting as the primary recipient of said continuity, receives physical changes to his characteristics. Going into the second season, you can tell that there was a want from the character of Finn for him to be more malleable and less like a hyper child he was initially pitched as. Episodes like Susan Strong, To Cut a Woman's Hair, and The Real You show Finn's more level-headed and diplomatic side, and present him with an issue he cannot just punch his way out of. Those later 2 episodes also contain the moments where Finn undergoes said cosmetic changes. He cuts his hair, which, given the length, likely has never been cut before, to selflessly help a mischievous witch. And in The Real You, he loses his iconic sword, Scarlet. The hair not so much, but the sword is actually a pretty telling insight into where Finn is at this point in the story. You can plainly see how busted up and poorly maintained Scarlet is. Finn's reckless and childish nature is reflected in how he treats his sword, and with him losing it, it can serve as an external showing of his character's journey. One episode towards the end of the season also showcases his biological journey by giving him a birthday. Most long-running shows tend not to want to highlight a birthday. It can give a sense of disconnect when the characters acknowledge that they are aging, and yet they never actually do. But Adventure Time plants a flag and commits that it's not afraid to showcase that these characters can and will evolve. Second season introduces even more characters and expands on those previously. The rest of the second season has some great gems, like the spotlight on BMO and their connection to Finn and Jake in the episodes Guardians of Sunshine and Video Makers. Said earlier, but the continued rebellious fun and establishing of more character connections in the episodes Go With Me and Heat signature from Marceline. Further antics with the Ice King in episodes like Loyalty to the King and Chamber of Frozen Blades. And simply interesting world building in episodes like It Came From the Nightosphere, Death in Bloom, and Susan Strong. All these episodes are just straight improvements when comparing to the standard Season 1 fare, while at the same time carving out its unique identity more and more. Overall, I call it a season of improvement. It really hones in on what they thought worked in the first season and improves upon it. Still remains is the interesting sensibilities in the writing style and the overall off-kilter, wacky energy. Yet they still decided to push the boundaries when it came to the end of the season. For the first time, they were going to attempt a serialized story that draped over 2 episodes, the 2-part season finale, Mortal Folly and Mortal Recoil. The episodes themselves leverage a lot of small, previously introduced desperate elements to allow for a real true antagonist to be allowed into the story, the Lich. Even all the way back in the show Bible, the Lich was shown to be an ultimate evil in the story. Taking heavy inspiration from fantasy work, the Lich King is the embodiment of death. Not the actual death that we see in Death in Bloom, but all the Lich longs for is bringing wide swaths of entropy and death to the land of Oo. With him freed at the start of the episode, it's up to Finn and Jake to step up and take the hero role. Calling back to the Season 1 episode His Hero, Finn has to embody the role that used to belong to Billy and vanquish the Lich like he once did. They even say in the episode that this is their first Save the World gig. Hope the 2 don't screw it up. The episode even manages to squeeze in some Ice King development by having him largely be an idiot who doesn't know that he's screwing things up rather than being an evil dude. Because compared to the Lich, Ice King is really just a lonely guy. Due to the continued pestering from the Ice King, the duo fails to stop the Lich from reaching his well of power. For the first truly explicit time, we see the world of Oo as the post-apocalypse. Tracing the Lich's miasma leads the heroes down into an abandoned subway systems and fights with newly summoned undead. With help from the insanely talented Ron Perlman, the Lich provides the most menacing atmosphere the show has known yet. Living up to the initial pitch, the Lich is a scary dude. The Lich manages to invade Finn's mind, encouraging him to die and join his undead army. Even after Finn breaks the mind control and attacks the Lich, he's laughing the entire time, which adds to the feeling at the end of the episode, this isn't over. Up until now, the usual MO for ending an episode is to have a very short injection of something random and funny to end out the story. Usually it took the form of some recontextualization of something earlier, or just a quick little gag. So when the Ice King accidentally drops Princess Bubblegum into a pool of the Lich's power, it might be expected for the audience to assume it's just a quick gag to wrap up the episode and move on. That is, until the next episode, Mortal Recoil, starts right off the bat with the fallout of the events of Mortal Folly. With PB being both gross and nasty after the dip in the toxic waste, the Candy citizens quickly try to patch her up. While she does end up recovering, there are many signs that not everything is right. She unfortunately talks like an edgelord and her skin color is off. Straight up exorcism type stuff. So yeah, it's a shock to no one when the Lich returns through her body and starts making a muck of the Candy Kingdom. This level of threat leads to the first real team up between the heroic duo and the Ice King, which once again just further shows the companionship between the characters. In fact, by the episode's end, they would not have been able to beat the Lich Princess Bubblegum if it were not for the assist. They also show off how much of a stand-up dude the Ice King is, for when PB is rebuilt to be 13, he smartly leaves because he doesn't want to catch any allegations. The episode ends with an ominous glimpse that the Lich still isn't dead and will be running amok for future stories to happen. Like I said, the season finale can almost function as the staging grounds for what the rest of the show plans to follow. They managed to establish the main ongoing antagonist, showcase the capability for the Ice King to be an ally, and elevate Finn and Jake to a higher level of heroism, all while maintaining the tone that the show is known and loved for. While future seasons really raise the stakes and deepen the characters, this first real example of serialization is such a great showcase for what the show at this time is all about. A radical fantasy show about a heroic lad and his dog.
Well, I've got really general advice that's really important. You just have to keep doing something in order to get good at it. I get a lot of emails from fans of Adventure Time, and they're all from people who want to be a part of it in some way. They're either animation students just starting out, a lot of people who just want to be a voice, a lot of people who draw original characters who want them put into the show. But then I get very few emails from people who are already doing stuff. And that's what I want to tell people, is just to do stuff, just make stuff. And then you'll be better than the people who are like, how do I even start? And so that's what I would like to see. I'd rather just see the stuff that you started with, like just start, make something, and then send it to me.
I want the full package.
So go ahead and do that, send it to me. I'll send you an email saying that's super cool, man. And then you started. There you go.
I really want to thank OSC for allowing me to use their ambient time albums as the background music for this video. I've linked them in the description, and hopefully I have something popping up right now. Please give them a look. Their music is great. I worked a lot longer on this video than I expected, and I'm hopeful you all enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe, because I plan to make videos on all the future seasons, and probably Fiona and Cake as well. If there's any specific subjects you wish me to dive deeper into or further illuminate in future videos, please leave me a comment telling me what you want to see. Hopefully I'll get the next one out a lot quicker than I got this one done. But yeah, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe. Do people still say that? I don't know. Anyway, thank you. See you next time.